It is enough. It's the perfect time to be transformed. I'm Mike Morrison with 2 minutes of insight and inspiration. Welcome to 2 Minute Transformation. It's always good when we're overwhelmed with the climb and the difficulties seem too much to find a friend who's been there, done that. I'll be the first to say it's not always easy to find a listening ear, but I find that not only does God put up with my ramblings on and the occasional tantrum that I have a tendency to throw, but that through His Word He offers me words of comfort and even the kick in the pants I need from time to time. The men and women throughout the Scriptures experienced many of the same problems we face today, and they did so without the convenience of posting their frustration to their status or tweeting about their heartaches. Paul did use the occasion of a letter to the church at Corinth to share that he was facing some difficulties. Though he never says for sure what the problem was exactly, we know it had to be troubling. In fact, he says in the 12th chapter of 2 Corinthians, he prayed 3 times that God would intervene. Finally, he gets an answer from the Lord in verse 9. Paul writes, "And he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Listen, God's not always going to take away our trials. Truth is, some of them are being used to build character in us. God tells Paul that His grace is sufficient. In other words, God's divine favor toward Paul was enough, and that favor, Paul could be the man that God wanted him to be, despite the difficulties he was struggling with. God goes on to remind Paul that the strength of God was perfected in the fact that Paul was suffering, and he was suffering, and that suffering had taken him to the limits of his own human endurance. It's not a passive answer by any means. God's grace is enough. It's bigger than our biggest failures. It's stronger than our most powerful foe. It's more enduring than our best efforts. Let His grace rest on you today and be transformed.